This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk. Are you serious? I had a little faux pas this morning. I've got several shows queued up to do today, some recorded and some live, and I started the wrong show. Thank God, Carlos. I wonder why there was nobody popping in the room. So we'll do a short version of my opening. I'll bring in Carlos, the Mad New Yorker, here in just a little bit. I want to welcome everybody on Facebook and all of our other outlets, all the groups. Wish everybody, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus, whatever you choose to celebrate. And however you choose to celebrate it, we wish you a safe and happy one. Spend this time with your family and friends and the people that make you feel good, and forget about all the crap going on in the world, and enjoy these next few days. It's a joyous season, and it should stay that way. So let me try to find this banner. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about Major League Baseball and some of the spending going on, and moves by the Mets and Yankees. One I really don't care about, one I do. The NFL playoff picture, a little bit about the Patriots' follies last week, worst play I've ever seen in an NFL game, and a little bit of early college basketball if we have time, now that I've cut the show short. And a quick, as I bring Carlos in, I want to bring in a quick rest in peace. Good morning, Carlos. How are you?
Hey, morning, Keith. How you doing? Morning, everybody. Happy Friday. How's it going?
I didn't get a chance to do this. I'm a college football, or I guess I neglected to do it. I shouldn't say I didn't get a chance. But Franco Harris, who passed away here, was not just a big NFL star, but a big college football star at Penn State before he got into the NFL. Great player with the Steelers, a core member of that 4 Super Bowl championship team. Sad to watch him finish his career in Seattle as a football fan, in my mind. But sadly passes away, and suddenly passes away at 72, and made all the more tragic, I guess, in the fact that they're ready, and they still will celebrate the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception this weekend. I was 12 years old. I cannot believe it's 50 years ago. And also, shockingly to me, they're just getting around to retiring his number this weekend in Pittsburgh, which is a little odd. So any thoughts on Franco? Not being a Steeler fan, but obviously you couldn't get away from the Steelers and the Cowboys in the 70s. You're a little younger than me, but any thoughts? Did you get a chance to see Franco play?
I got to see him play, like, on all the, old video cassette recordings, and, a lot of the plays that he was in the 4 Super Bowls, So I got to see all those on replay, but the effect that he's had on the Pittsburgh Steelers and the fandom, and just being a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers lore, I'm not sure you could go anywhere and not see a Franco Harris jersey, to be honest with you, wherever they sell Pittsburgh Steelers jerseys. And besides Bradshaw Harris, and then you go into those players that were green and that in the, they were known for their defense, but they had a heck of an offense to balance them out. So
they were a great team, and I can remember because they were terrible. When I was starting to come into football, be aware of football and follow it as a young boy. They were terrible, and Chuck Noll came in there and turned that franchise around. And Franco, in the early parts of turning this dynasty or this team that wasn't a dynasty into a dynasty, Franco was more integral than even Terry Bradshaw, because Bradshaw took a few years to develop into a great quarterback. So he'll be missed, and a good person by all accounts as well, a Class A person. So he'll be missed, and I just wanted to send our condolences out to his family and his fans, and the Pittsburgh Steelers family as well. It'll be interesting to watch how they handle this, because I think that game is on Christmas night, if I'm not mistaken, or Christmas Eve night. I'm not sure which. The Steelers have a game live that night. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. Let's pivot, since Keith wasted about 10 minutes of the show, starting a different show. I apologize, everybody. Good morning to CA. I saw you pop in there. Let's start with Let's start with I know what we're all excited to talk about. The Major League Baseball free agency spree continues. And there's no place we could possibly start other than this Carlos Correa debacle for the last week. I have some theories here. First, for those who don't know, and living under a rock, I guess, he signed a 13-year contract, I believe, with the Giants for, you can tell me the money. It's stupid money anyways, but I guess it doesn't matter. And then they had some questions about his medicals, an old injury from 2014 to his lower leg, and they squashed the deal. And it wasn't but hours later the Mets signed him. I have doubts the Giants ever intended to sign Carlos Correa. I think they did this to kind of placate their fan base after missing out on Judge and making it look like they're trying to spend money. And I just feel like it feels really weird to me. And then there's the Mets side of it. And I know that you may be unhappy about this, but if I'm a Met fan, this is different than other signings. The Mets are maybe this one bat away from being real World Series contenders. I think they've had a great offseason. Now, you're going to spend $500 million on this roster next year, about $110 million in luxury taxes, records all around. Where are you on this, Carlos?
All right. Let's see. Uncle Stevie and the New York Mets. It's a little bit complex. And I say that in a sense where you can spend.
Before you go off on the Mets, real quick, do you think the Giants ever intended to sign Carlos Correa? I really don't.
So I believe that there was a possibility it was going to happen. There's talks that his family was in San Francisco ready to celebrate with him in hotels and things like that. But, that's all speculation. I think they just put that to weather the storm. San Francisco has a huge problem right now, and their fan base is going to be very ticked off at the end of the day before spring training starts, because that's about the fifth player maybe that they talked about maybe signing and getting on this team that's not on this team. So, and even the Padres have picked up a couple players. So now they know they're in a tight spot, because the Dodgers, at the end of the day, the Dodgers is their competition. The Padres is supposed to be like, a team that can step on and over, and none of that. I don't know if anything is going to be possible for them to be competitive, except for some of the youngsters that they have on the team. But to be, top-notch competitive as far as having star baseball players on your team, right? Selling jerseys and tickets. So
you can't do it consistently. I mean, Gabe Kapler and the Giants showed 2 years ago that you could do it with the smoke and mirrors and, platoon at every position and doing things that other people aren't doing. And you get away with it and fool people for a while. But, with the money that's being spent around and good teams out there, it's not going to be sustainable. And I think other than the Judge pursuit, I really don't think these guys, I don't think they've been serious about these guys have been chasing. I think it's to placate the fans a little bit. But anyway, I know the Mets are the Mets side of this is far more important to you than the Giants side. So go ahead. I didn't mean
I mean, no, at the end of the day, whoever, they get, they'll be in the competition and in the conversation of, the playoffs, right? Because they're either come over here or we'll go, or the Mets will go over there, depending if everything, if all the cards fall in the right place. But people are talking about Cohen as a person's, changing baseball. I don't think that's true. He just now has an opportunity as an owner to be part of the fiasco of baseball. And yeah, he's being eager this year. That salary cap is bloated. The tax is going to be hard.
But if you can pay it, who cares?
Exactly. So it's at the end of the day, it's not my money, and the players on the team now have to understand one thing. It's win or get packing, because that's a lot of players that he's invested in to stay competitive in the NL East. And Mets fans, don't get it twisted. This NL East division is tough. The Braves.
Well, the Braves are weakened, though. The Braves are weakened. They lost some key guys.
They have a core players that have confidence, that have won together already.
But they they lost one of those core guys in Swanson leaving for the Cubs. That's a
Yeah,
big
but I believe the Braves already had some guys ready to replace him, and that
ready to
they're
play.
willing to lose. They're willing to lose him because of the depth that they had in that position. Then on top of that, their pitching core, they've lost some players, but they've also have guys that they're going to replace, and they're ready to do that. You have the Phillies owner trying to get depth in pitching, to go along with the offense. This isn't going to be just a walk in the park for the Mets at all. So
No,
Cohen can be spending a lot of money, but he hopes that it becomes a win, and I believe the Mets fans do too. But we have to be wary because there's the back end of that. There's an effect that happens sometimes, and we have our buddies and big brother across the way in the Bronx that can tell you, hey, it happens a lot more than you think. Now, will the Mets be making money in the back end? Yes, they'll be selling jerseys, they'll be selling tickets, the fans will be excited, but that doesn't always calculate to winning. And
you mentioned a team in the Bronx, which I happen to root for. I found it very interesting and ironic that Hal Steinbrenner kind of called out Steve Cohen this week and said what he's doing isn't good for baseball when it was his father that created this type of system in the first place. It's amazing to me that he would have the chutzpah to call him out on this.
He has to say something because what the Yankees have done as far as holding off on the gas pedal a little bit, trying to ride along and see how things go. That's not a George Steinbrenner mentality. He's more like let's go for it. Goes all out, gets those players on the team and hopes for the best.
Which didn't always work out, by the way.
Exactly. So this is it's an exciting time to be in New York. Both teams spending money in different ways. To me, what the Mets are doing is exciting. It's different because the ownerships in past haven't done this kind of. They hadn't had this kind of mentality. The only thing, the cause and effect, is how much depth are they going to need? Because what they have in the minor league system is actually they have top players in the minor league system, in the top 25. In a couple positions, and are they throwing that opportunity away for those guys to move up and actually maybe solidify this team and give them balance? Because right now their age group went from the median of 27 to already 33, and just the moves that they made. Now,
Mets?
The Mets, yeah.
Wow, yeah, but Verlander's 40. That brings that number way up.
That's what I'm saying. No, I was going to say they started at 27, and now the average age on the team.
Yeah, but
that's what I'm saying. They went from 27 to 33, and when that number starts moving towards the higher end of the 40, you have less and less wins on the team. That's a proven fact. That's a proven statistic.
Yeah,
and analytics and everything else.
Your core guys are all in their prime of their career. They're 28 to 30 years old, basically.
Okay, Keith, what I'm saying is that the Mets last year average age was top in 27, and now it's moved up because they've picked up guys.
Relevant though, you're looking to win this year. Why is that? How's that relevant? You got to win now. What's the difference? How old the guys are?
Because you're talking about a long season. You're talking about durability.
Hold it. You also got to remember too. You got two guys that are 40 plus that bring that average way up. It's not even fair to use that number when you got two guys that skew the number up. In Verlander and Scherzer, they skew that number way up.
Before Scherzer got on the team last year, they were at 20. They were almost at 25, at 26.
Well, remove those two guys, and the average age is probably still 29. They're 23 or 28, probably.
No, a little bit higher because remember Marte's older. He's another player that is older. Nemo's going to be 1 year older. So.
Well, they're all getting older. I wish if you find a way not to get older, let me know. Nemo's 29 years old.
Right.
Marte he's older. He's 34.
Yeah. So
there's a guy. He's the one guy in the lineup, everyday lineup, that's I would say maybe moving up there in age. But guys,
Escobar is he's now.
Where's he even going to play? Where's Escobar going to play? Second base, maybe? I don't know.
He's a third base.
No, the way I understand it,
No, they're gonna move. They're gonna move Correa now to third. They're gonna keep
Escobar. Maybe they play Escobar at second and McNeil in left field. They got a problem in left field yet. So,
oh my goodness. So I mean, listen, I'm like I said, it's not a bad deal, but there's a lot of young players that had opportunities that will no longer have the same opportunity, unless injuries occur. But that's not a good thing either. So,
no, of course not. I mean, but, this guy wants to win. He's a fan, and he also, if I'm a fan or a player, and I see my owner doing this, showing how much he wants to win. Yes, it puts a lot of pressure on the players, and it puts a ton of pressure on Buck Showalter next year. By the way, I'm excited by that. You see so many teams go back to the Giants. How do those players and fans really think that team wants to build when they can't sign any of these free agents, and they constantly sign these retread pitchers and think they're going to rehabilitate them? Unless they're doing what they need to do to win in today's environment. Is it great for baseball and great for small market teams? No. But you know what? That's capitalism, and you should have bought the team in New York and not in Kansas City.
No, I totally agree with you, and I'm just looking at a standpoint where when Cohen bought in, he was using the system to as much as he could to try to better the team, and now that he's kind of turned his shoulder on that and is buying people left and right, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. But then there's no balance. How do you find a balance? And when you're trying to find a balance, most of the time it doesn't equate to a championship. So you either develop your players and win with those guys you develop, or you win with the guys you bring in for rentals and you let it go.
I think
I'm gonna stand by that. There hasn't been that many teams that have won with a good balance of both.
I think he's made great use of money, and I'm not saying the money he had available because it's unlimited. It just is. But for the money he could have signed DeGrom for, he was able to get, and I'm talking long term, $188 million. He was able to bring in Verlander. He was able to bring in Senga. He was able to bring in re-sign Nemo. He was able to, and there's one other guy, Quintana, for less money than he would have had to pay for one guy. So he's done a good job. Hold on. I mean, he spent a lot of money, yes, but I think they've been smart too about the way they've spent their money, because you could have wrapped up a lot of money in DeGrom and not been able to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they brought in a catcher. McCann's out the door. He went to the Orioles for a player to be named. Whoever they pick up. I mean, I'm not upset with the moves.
Here's the player they're going to get for McCann right here. Bat.
I mean, like they need like 3 more of those guys with the bats. But listen, I mean, I'm not upset, Keith. I'm not upset. What I'm saying, I was excited about the youth movement, and that has been, the brakes are down on that, and that's not so much a good thing when you want to have players on the team that can play as long as possible during the season. Now it's baseball.
Agreed.
Anything can happen, and that's okay. The Mets will have a great roster on paper, but as a fan of baseball and of the Mets, I would like to see a championship run. Not a championship-looking run, not smoke and mirrors, but I'd like to see it really happen. Then
you should be happy with what they did here. You made a comment to me in one of your texts after this deal that they still need bats. They got bats everywhere now.
They've had bats since 2000. They've had people who can bat, but they haven't been hitting. My thing that bothers me the most.
The Nemo, I keep calling him Nemo. I can't stop. Nemo hit last year. McNeil won a batting title. Who's your right fielder? Who the heck's your right fielder?
Lana?
No, he played left field, didn't he? Who's the right fielder?
That was
Marte's going to play center right. He hit when he was healthy. Now, obviously, he's got some health concerns. You got Correa, you got Lindor on the left side of the infield. They're both A+ hitters in my mind. You got Alfonso. You got a guy catching who's got a little bit of pop. And if in fact what's his face there moves over to second base, who do we say? Escobar moves over to second base. He had a really great second half. You got a really good lineup there.
Look,
this team's going to be the World Series favorite on paper for sure.
On paper, man. Listen, the Yankees as well had all these numbers. Everything was looking good analytically on paper, but those bats went cold. And when those bats go cold, and in the postseason, there's nothing that you can hide. So listen, again, I'm not saying I'm not down in the dumps about what Cohen is doing. I'm excited. I'm excited for baseball as a whole. I just would like to see sometimes that if you're spending that much money, you get a better result. Like Huizinga, he spent money and he got a result. Why? I mean, that's what you want
with the Marlins.
Yeah, with the Marlins. That's what you want. That's what you're hoping for when you spend that kind of money.
But then, remember, he also tore those teams down after he won championships as well.
I was gonna go. That's what I'm going straight towards. Even though he won a championship, it wasn't something consistent because you can't do it with guys who are peaking and over. It's because it's baseball. At the end of the day.
And again, he gets the money. And there's times where I get on guys for signing, like I got on the Rangers for signing Rom. But that, to me, that's a stupid signing, right? You're not ready to win. The Mets are a player away, and this might be the guy. This might very well be the guy, and you got to go in all in. And I know you're kind of, I know you want to bash him for it, but you want to win as well. So
no, I'm not trying to. Again, I'm one of those hesitant, like When teams start making great moves and they throw money in the mix, that's like adding fuel to a fire, right? And if you're you were waiting for heat, fine, but you don't want to be burnt either. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like things are bumbling, and New York's gonna blow up with all this baseball, and then we all gonna come home and one of those teams got to win the World Series this year.
You got to be willing to get burned, right? You got to turn up the fire and able to get burned. And I think that's what you have to do. In New York, you have to do that.
If none of these teams win a baseball championship this year, I ain't going to watch for the next 2 years. Because it's going to take 2 or 3 years for those teams to get better.
Somebody remember to save this tape.
I'm just, I'm
2 years.
Listen. So now your boy is back.
Your team's got a better chance to win than my team right now.
That's why I like both teams.
The Yankees offseason to me, other than re-signing Judge, has been a disaster because I am not a Carlos Rondon fan. I think he's going to be a nightmare here. The Yankees have a history, and it may not be his fault. I think there's a jinx on free agent pitchers here. Just look at I can bring you a list of Kevin Browns and Carlo Pavanos and Ed Whitsons, and you can go on and on and on about these guys who have come here. They've come from Japan. They've come from here. They've come from Cuba. They've come from everywhere, and they get hurt or they stink because they can't pitch in New York. And I'm not crazy about Carlos Rondon's medicals. He was hurt or horrible every year of his career until this past 2 years. Now maybe he's found how to do it, but I'm not convinced. I got into a big to-do with a guy. I mean, just because I said I don't like him. I don't like the guy. I don't like his makeup. I don't think he's going to be a good fit in New York. And the guy was all pissed off at me. I'm like, you're entitled to your opinion, but
right. I agree with you on what you're saying. And I feel like the winner here and who's eating his chicken dinner is Rondon. He threw up a price that was way inflated for what his stats, because you get to pay for what you do in the before. You're not going to pay for what you can do in baseball, right?
One good year.
He had one good year, and on top of that, he had no other offers once his price got inflated. So then he was able to, his representation was able to come back at the Yankees and say, we don't have to do exactly what he asked, but nobody, and they gave him a contract. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not worthy of a contract. And I'm not saying that, like I'm not one to meander and mingle on people's monies, but as a Yankee team, they're already having situations with people who are not up to par for what they're getting paid, and this adds to that list. And when you're gonna need somebody or you're looking for somebody, how can you maneuver these guys off your roster?
Yeah, I will agree. That's the big thing. that anytime you lock these guys up for long term, whether it's Correa or Lindor or Cole or Rondon, it's great as long as they're good. But you got to know that once they stink, you can't move them. You're stuck with them, or you're going to eat their contract.
And listen, and I've been going on about the New York Mets and Steve Cohen, but Pete Alonso still needs to get signed. And what are they going to give him?
Well, there you go. Now the payroll will be $600 million next year.
Well, I mean, here's a problem with Pete Alonso though. He's like going up and going to start to peak, right? Because you get paid for what you did in the past. Is he worth $12 million plus a season?
Alonso, he's going to get big bucks. If it's not here, it'll be somewhere else.
This is a headache that I start to get when I think about all these players getting signed, looking towards the future, because I don't see there being a lot of wiggle room for the Mets and on Pete Alonso. Now, having an owner like Cohen, he could do something for Alonso like the Yankees did for Judge, because the money's there, right? But
Alan, that's hilarious, by the way. We are spoiled. I'll admit it to you. But you as a Cowboy fan, to call me spoiled is amazing to me, by the way. You think your team ought to win every year when they don't even have any track record for like 50 years since I was a kid. Well, I shouldn't say that. 30 years.
It's just time with all the money spent.
By the way, just to point this out, because now Alan's got me riled up today. He's becoming the new Carlos on my radar here. Sorry, Alan. I got 27 world championships. I got a reason to be spoiled, by the way. So
the expectation level is so high here in New York for people in baseball, because baseball is a foundation for a lot of not just Americans here, but the Latinos that come in from different countries, and the Islanders, like the Cubans and Dominicans, they expect to see winning baseball, especially if they have an example like the New York Yankees, and then their little brother like the Mets who won before too. So these guys, and they've had representation on those teams.
Yep.
So and I'm not even a Hispanic from an island. We're the new Hispanics from South America. They're like, we like baseball too. We see an influx of Colombian, Venezuelan, even there's a couple Brazilians now moving up in the ranks. So, this is something that we want to see. We want to see winning. If you're going to spend money, and you're going to spend money to see these games, to buy these jerseys, to go to these parks and pay what you pay, you want to see wins, man.
And the other thing about this comment, by the way, there is nobody. I don't follow my teams blindly. I don't. I am the hardest guy on my teams that I could think of. Well, maybe you. I can't beat Carlos. But listen, if I see something that isn't right, I will tell you. It's not about being spoiled. I don't think a guy's a good fit for my team, and I want a better fit. I'll tell you that as a sports guy,
right?
And I don't just say, okay, my team's going to win. The Patriots are going to win 18 games this year just because that's what, I should do as a good fan. I want to win every game. But realistically, you have to, and look at your Cowboys the same way, Alan, as I keep telling you, to win some playoff games, and we'll start talking about the Cowboys.
Look, it was only a couple of years that the New York Mets fan had ran off an all-star player, and right now he's still kind of an okay player. But I mean, the Mets organization they were not going to spend money on a player that causes that much drama.
Who are we talking about?
The shortstop that's playing for the White Sox now. What's his name? From the Cubs. He came from the Cubs.
Baez.
Baez, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the money's going to be spent. Players are going to be coming in and out. But once a player's worn out his welcome, guess what? The door's always been open, and all they got to do is turn around and walk right out. And guess what? The fan base, the ownership, or the media is pushing you and kicking you out that door already. So, you have to be careful coming here. Everybody says they want to play here for the Yankees or the Mets, but you also got to be ready for the bad, because the good is great, but the bad is worse.
It is a different place. And, there are people get on Garrett Cole and whatnot. I'm a big Garrett Cole fan. One, because of his makeup. He can pitch here because he's got the right makeup to do it. He can he can fail, take the criticism, and he doesn't go off like who had I mentioned before? Kevin Brown was the worst guy to come in here to New York, and Ed Whitson and guys like this. Great pitchers elsewhere, they can't pitch here. It's a different animal. People don't get it until they come here. I think that's the deal.
And when they leave, sometimes that whole that just feeling of the so much emotion and so much, feeling of being in New York is, behind you, that you sometimes have a better baseball career, and sometimes you don't. Yeah. Jason Bay didn't. He couldn't get over it.
It's another guy. He was a decent player, could not play a lick in New York.
And then this other guy, nobody's going to pick him up, that the Yankees had on the roster for 3 years, and he's still going to get paid.
Yeah.
What's his name? From the Red Sox, they got from. Gosh, I can't remember his name.
Bogarts?
No. He won the World Series with the Boston. The New York signed him, and he only played like 5 games, got injured, and never came.
Kobe Ellsbury.
Yeah, that's no.
That's what a canoe walk for. Good grief.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's baseball in New York.
Let's change gears over to the NFL here. And I want to, before I go on there, let me put Rick's. I don't want Rick to think I'm ignoring.
Okay, so
hang on 1 second before we jump in there. Rick had a comment about a game tonight that I want to put up, and I'll address it. Then we'll move on. He wanted to point out that our a good friend of the show, Larry Sorensen, is the color man at Wake Forest. Wake plays Missouri tonight, and Missouri is sneaky good. They played very good in the second half of the season. This will be a tough game, and probably Sam Hartman's last game at Wake Forest, because he's likely to hit the transfer portal after this for his final year of eligibility, is what it looks like now. And Rick, we'll talk more about this game on tomorrow morning's show, which, by the way, we're going to do the Sunday Stream of Consciousness on Saturday at 9 a.m. tomorrow for those that are interested.
And listen, on that note, can Hartman beat up on a Missouri team that's only actually good for two quarters? So,
yeah.
There's a possibility of that being a close game.
Yeah, the over might be a good bet tonight.
Yeah,
I have to see what it is. It'll probably be about 82.
But that's not a terrible. That's not the worst of the worst of the SEC teams, but they rank on the top of that.
Yeah, but they gave Georgia fits this year. It's not a bad football team at times. So we'll see what teams. The problem with and again, I'm getting a little off topic, but the problem with these bowl games is, unless you do a deep dive, you don't know who the hell's playing because of the transfer portal and guys sitting out to protect their contracts. And
and I said that on the show with Alan the other night, is the NCAA or the NFL should make it something on paper saying that if you do not play your bowl game, then you're not invited to the
All-Star games and
the combine.
Yeah.
And or if you don't have to come to the combine, but we'll give you at least the opportunity to watch you at your showcase. But it's something because you're not playing your bowl game is.
How about this? How about the guys who are paying some of these kids millions of dollars in NIL money say, I'm not paying you your money if you don't play in your biggest game of the year.
We mentioned that as well. We mentioned that as well. That's another, things like that. Something needs to be done, because I can't always be doing this, watching these games all fall long, all winter long, wanting to see a championship or a bowl game to see these teams play, and the coaches aren't there, the players aren't there. Hell, what is Capital One paying for? What are we as fans? What are we watching?
Yeah, well, it's
it's crazy, man.
It's filler for ESPN, and there's a flip side to it that kids that are going to be playing next year get a chance to play. Blah blah blah. I get it, but that's not what people want to see. I want to see the team I want to see the players that got them to that bowl game, right? That's what I want to see. Anyway, let's jump to the NFL. The playoff picture is still pretty muddled, but coming much more into focus, especially after last night's debacle with the Jets. And I'm going to have to start saying that Zach Wilson may make it somewhere. He's not going to make it in New York. It's
what I said to you. Come on. I've been saying it since day one. I've said it. They shouldn't even have drafted him.
In fairness, you did, yes.
And they should have sold that pick. And they would have been a lot better. They probably would have been a lot better on depth. Now they probably would have been struggling too, because there's not a quarterback in sight that they've been able to pick up. with the amount of money that they didn't have.
Reached last week who they benched Wilson for last night, for crying out loud. This kid, and it's immaturity. This kid's got the talent, but he doesn't want to put the work in to get better. That's the problem. That's the difference between him and Daniel Jones in my mind. Is Daniel Jones has done the work, put in the work, and you see the results now, and much different. Much different.
I'm going to need an asset after this show.
Daniel
Listen,
Jones is not the reason for any failures in New York this year.
Yeah, but he's not the reason. But he is the reason why the New York Giants will not go over the hump. Why? So even if he's not the reason for their failures, he is not the one to carry the team where it needs to go. So that means he should be out the door.
50 in the league, for crying out loud. I mean, where's he supposed to go with the football? He's got Saquon Barkley and nothing on offense.
That's it. If that's all you got, that's who you give the ball to. That's it.
You can't give the ball to him 50 times a game.
And listen, on paper, they still have a contract with Danny Galladay, who's taking all that money. They still got players that keep getting hurt that could help them. I mean, that team needs to be rebuilt, and it starts with they got a good defensive coordinator. I don't know why didn't they get a good offensive coordinator.
Kenny, I'll get into your question tomorrow on
well, the Giants are doing okay for what they have and what they're and this season, and I'm not excited for them, but I'm kind of I'm happy.
8-5-1. I mean, they played a stinker against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago, but they beat pretty much all the teams they should have beat.
I know, Keith. Here's a problem, Keith. Here's a problem. They could be 9 and whatever or 10 and whatever, but when they get in the playoffs, they're the first ones out the door. That's the problem that I have with that. I don't want mediocreness. Well, not for what we're paying for these players, man.
You're going to match up against the 49ers right now. I would give them a puncher's chance against the 49ers.
As long as Purdy doesn't score 21 points, yeah, they could beat them, but
their defense and their running. They'll go as far as their defense and their running game will take them. I get it. Daniel Jones alone can't win for this team. I'm not arguing that point, but he's not beating this team. He's not getting this team beat. Zach Wilson is getting his team beat.
Yeah. What I like about Daniel Jones is that if he knows he can't make a 40-yard pass plus, he's going to run for at least 10. I'll give him that. He protects the ball a little bit better. And he can run.
Your favorite fan wants away.
But I would feel a lot better as a fan when these guys are not in New York, to be honest.
You know what? I don't disagree with Alan's comment here. I would trust Daniel Jones more than Kirk Cousins and maybe even Brady at this point. And again, Brady because of
what? No,
he's 6-8. Let's not forget they're 6-8 in the playoffs.
You got to understand one thing about Kirk Cousins is that he has proven to bring teams back consistently. Daniel Jones is not the one bringing these teams back this season and winning. It wasn't him. It was on the legs and the back of Saquon. Saquon has saved the grace of Daniel Jones. In fact, if Saquon was injured this year, Daniel Jones would be already out the door. So he'd be on the practice squad or even cut. So you guys need to wake up and smell the roses.
I don't need to wake up. The Giant fans need to wake up. I will continue to tell you, if this kid had been picked late in the second round, you'd think his progress was tremendous up to this point. But
him and Bortles and Trubisky can be on the same boat.
All drafted high.
Nowhere near New York. How about that?
None of it their fault where they got drafted, by the way. It's not Daniel Jones' fault.
It's not. But again,
so high.
And I mean, he's on a rookie contract, but if he's looking to stay in the league and looking to become a better quarterback, he hasn't been able to do that with the coaching staffs that have been so erratic here. That's not on him either. However,
right,
he needs to go somewhere where they can help him, and New York isn't the place.
They're doing that now, though. You've got a coaching staff in place that's doing exactly what you say he needs to go somewhere else to do.
If this coaching staff stays and they're willing to go back and try to help these kids get better instead of getting better players who can win, if the New York Giants become a team that develop players, they're not going to be in the Super Bowl run for the next 10 years.
I think that comment's I think that comment is aimed at Alan's Kirk Cousins shot. But yeah, how about a guy who's watched Tom Brady for 20 years tell you that I don't think I don't trust him right now. I think I have some credibility in where Tom Brady's been in his career, Rick, and I don't trust him in a playoff game. I would trust Daniel Jones more than Tom Brady right now.
Well, okay, so you do not trust him because you don't think he can make that final drive, or you don't trust him because his defense is giving up too many plays and is allowing that score to go over 14, 21 points.
I'm talking about giving my team a chance to win the game overall, not just the last minute and a half of the game. I'm talking about the game overall. Don't put yourself in a position that you need that drive at the end of the game.
Okay, right.
Brady showed here a couple of times he can turn back the clock at the end of games, but against really bad teams, by the way. The teams I've seen him do it against were the Saints and the Rams. Those are not good football teams.
So one of the issues, though, is that
this is a great
point. That team has been playing it too close for comfort. Bruce Arians not being there, I think, is having an effect because the coach now doesn't have the same demeanor and doesn't have the same vision, right? So I think that makes a difference right now. Tom Brady the Tampa Bay Bucks would probably be maybe 2 or 3 games in the plus had Bruce Arians been there, as much as they don't get along with each other. Because
Brady doesn't get along with the Bulls either. So here's the thing. I mean, he's there with his wide receivers changing entire game plan, it appears, like pretty much every week. Once it's turned in, they go through the whole thing. They make their suggestions, which Tom Brady's probably earned that right. Mm-hmm. But, again, as much as I love Tom Brady should have stayed retired. He's been a distraction for this team since training camp started. And I said it would be a problem, and people laughed at me because Tom Brady knows what he needs to do to be prepared. Well, this team also needs their quarterback in training camp when you're getting prepared for the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether he was in training camp or not, these guys have been injured, coming off injuries, and it just feels like they're a little bit slower this year. They don't have the running game slower. I think everything, they just are playing like an older team, and they need some rejuvenation. And I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, you are what you are, and you are what your record is, right? So
yeah,
to make it specifically Tom Brady's fault, I don't believe that's.
I didn't say it was all Tom Brady's fault. I never said that. I said he caused a problem with his situation this year. He caused a distraction, and he's got to own up to that. This team would be a better team if Tom Brady stayed retired.
They just got to score more points, man. I mean,
should have started over is what they should have done.
Well, they can take down Jones. So if you guys then the Tampa Bay Bucks will be all right for him.
And if he decides to play next year, he's going to play somewhere else besides Tampa Bay. That's pretty obvious. Maybe play for your team in Tennessee, and you'll see.
Yeah, again. People keep saying that. They bring up Tennessee, and
you bring it up. You bring up Tennessee.
I don't think that he'll be in Tennessee. I don't think he'll come back at all.
I think he will retire if he's smart.
He should.
I laugh. All the talk about him coming back to New England, not going to happen. He's not playing in New England ever again unless it's in a different uniform, ever. Now,
remember that guy brought up he wanted to be the oldest player in the NFL ever. Maybe that's something that he puts on.
He's almost there now.
Yeah.
I mean, who is the oldest? Is it still George Blanda?
Yeah, Blanda. Yeah.
Blanda was like 46 or whatever, and Brady's gonna be 46.
Hurts might not even play.
Well, he'll probably play in the playoffs. I don't know if I trust. I wouldn't put. Listen again. This is part of my blind loyalty complaint, Alan, is how do you put Dak 3 when Dak nearly lost to Texas at home and lost to Jacksonville last week in games that were really you need to win? Don't tell me you're in the playoffs because you're backed in the playoffs. And if you don't get there and win some games, this season's a failure. And
yeah, I don't see how you got Goff in the top either. Like,
well, you got to put somebody there, I guess. I'd put Jones ahead of Goff, probably. I don't know. Actually, Goff's played pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, but he's played pretty well. But he's
put him there.
He's proven to have difficulty in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. So he's at least been to a Super Bowl.
You get too many quarterbacks anyway, because only 7 of them can play in the playoffs, by the way. I mean, this is looking at this list, though. Let's assume Brady doesn't make the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. You got Heineke and Geno.
This list of quarterbacks in the NFC is amazing. The changing of the guard in football now, especially at the quarterback position, this is a great example of it. The Bradys are falling by the wayside. The Rodgers, the Wilsons. I'm probably missing somebody. Some have retired, obviously.
Yeah, Roethlisberger retired. Yeah, you're probably thinking of him now.
I mean, this is an amazing group of quarterbacks here to be even trying to rank these 7 guys or 9 guys.
None of them were. The only one that was in the top pick was Goff and Hurts. Those are the only 2 top. Oh, and Jones.
Right now, I would trust Goff and Jones more than Dak.
Oh, man. That Dallas team is so inconsistent, man.
Exactly. My point. And that starts at the quarterback position.
No, I mean, that defense is giving up a lot of games, man. A lot of games.
I don't disagree.
And listen, and to be having a running game that Dallas has, that there should be no reason why the defense is not getting enough rest. So, I don't know, man.
Team won't win until Jerry's gone. Not a huge Kirk fan. How many playoffs games has Dak won? Probably about the same as Kirk, to be honest with you.
Yeah, what, 2, 3?
I think he's won 2. Alan can probably give me a better number. Actually, he gave me the wrong number, I think, the last time. But I think he's won 2. Never gotten to an NFC Championship game. I do believe that Kirk has, now that I think about it. So Kirk's going to have more wins. I'll take that back. But, again, this is a guy who needs to get over the hump. Show me you can do it. I said the same thing about Matthew Stafford last year.
Yeah, he did.
If Kirk can get over the hump, I will give him his due.
And what happens is you give him his due, and now he's done. You slap that ring. You slap the ring on his finger, and now he's nowhere near football right now. Come on, man.
And Alan's right here. We talked about the defense being bad, but at the end of the day, you know where wins and losses get pinned? On the quarterback. It happens all the time.
Should be on the coach. That coach is horrible.
Dan Marino's one of the great quarterbacks of all time, and he takes this "I never won a Super Bowl" thing to his grave.
Yeah, and nobody says Don Shula's a terrible coach, though.
No, because he won Super Bowls. Dak's got to win. Dak's got to win something. He's going to win me over.
You don't like his mattress commercials?
I'm not sure what CA's saying to me here. Hope he didn't stroke out on me. Trevor over both. Listen, Lawrence. In 2 years, maybe even next year, I might agree with you.
Trevor is the truth, but that team needs a couple more players on both sides of the ball.
They do. They're like a player away on each side of the ball. Their team is really good, by the way. He needs to take better care of the football.
Well,
turns it over too much. Too many fumbles. Too many. Yeah.
To be honest with you, them throwing him down a few times that he had fumbles. I mean, anybody would lose the ball who's a quarterback who get thrown like that. And there's about 3 or 4 times this season where he's had fumbles.
I gave Dak too much credit here. He only got 1 win in the playoffs. Kirk won 1. Oh, that's right. It was Case Keenum that got them to the title game. My bad. So they're tied. Again, I don't have faith in either one. So to me, it doesn't matter.
Then the argument goes for you, Keith. You don't need to be a top-rated quarterback to get into the Super Bowl.
You don't. You need to be a leader.
So
you need to be a leader.
Who on that list of the unusual suspects is a guy that's going to take you to the promised land?
Well, the best leader in this bunch would be Tom Brady, obviously. But
is he though? Because you just said that he's a poor example of being a leader because he didn't go to the.
Oh, you're right. This year, I'm talking historically. Right
now,
no,
I'm talking about
on this list.
I'm talking about this year, playoff. Who's going to be there?
Then I'd leave Hurts at 1 and Brady. I'd move Jones all the way up to 2nd
as a leader,
and I'd have Heineke up there over some of these guys. It wouldn't be Dak.
Are you serious, man? Come on.
He's played 3 games for crying out loud.
You would put Jones over Dak?
I would. I don't even like the Cowboys, and I feel better with Dak being a quarterback than Jones. Oh, okay. Here's a problem though. You're thinking of the mistake that he made about touching the football and all that. You're bringing that into last year when they could have won that playoff game, and he didn't know what to do with a football. Everybody knows what to do with a football. You give it to the ref.
Can you blame the kid?
Yes, I can. He's the quarterback, and he needs to have a better head in that situation. These are the perfect examples of why teams don't win. Look at the Patriots last week. That is horrendous. And I'm blaming a coaching staff. They didn't make the call on the end of that game, but the players going out there and making that kind of play to blow a game and maybe blow their entire playoff future is on the coaching staff. And they didn't call the play, but the players have to be better coached to know that's one of the stupidest things you can ever do.
Yeah. Okay. So how about this past weekend when the Commanders were going to beat the Giants? And there was nothing that the team did wrong, nor the coach. It was just bad calling by the refs. What do you say about that?
Well, I could say if I was inclined to do that, I will tell you forever, I would never have and never will blame referees for losing a game. If I was inclined to do it, I'd do it in the Patriot game last week because the kid's foot was out of bounds. It's a bad call. Should they have won the game because of it? No, they didn't play well enough to win, and they threw their chance to go to overtime away. It's the Patriots' fault they lost, even though the referees made a horrendous call. You never blame the referees. Bad calls are part of the game.
Yeah, okay, so, but again, Rich, I think the Giants and the Commanders game should have been tied again because they both stunk it up at the end of the fourth quarter.
I would have put an interesting spin on this playoff race, I guess.
Yeah, but again, that's a situation that's going in an NFL investigation and all that junk. But Heineke did a pretty decent job to even give them the opportunity to get that bad call.
Heineke's done a good job, and if he'd been the quarterback the entire season, this team might be much better off. They could be closer to Philadelphia than they are to the Giants, but there's some talent on this team formerly known as the Redskins. Right, I'll tell you right now.
They have a good coach, so I give them the upper hand. I think the coaching matters as much as the quarterback situation matters because the quarterbacks aren't that deep, right? Right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that's fair. And this is a much better list of quarterbacks, by the way.
This looks like a Pro Bowl going on over here.
It does, right? Burrow, I'd put Mahomes over Burrow, but I can't quit. Who's Allen? Oh, Josh Allen, right? This is a pretty good list. Pretty good.
You know what happens here is that you put Mahomes number 1, right? And then you have to put Jackson number 2 because he's had the most experience. He's just been riddled with injury, right? And go back to that list, and then so I can because I'm reading off the list.
Oh, and then I was moving on to.
And then you have to put Allen, Lawrence, and Herbert on together, right? As number 3s. So it'd be Mahomes.
No, Allen's above Herbert and Lawrence.
He hasn't proven anything. He hasn't won anything, and he's thrown interceptions in the last part of the games.
Well, Herbert and Lawrence haven't proven anything.
That's why all 3 of them need to be together. That's why I put them together. That's why I put them together.
You can't put Josh Allen with those guys. No.
So, but he hadn't. Okay,
I can't.
He don't have no running game, Keith.
He doesn't necessarily need one. They haven't lost. They did not go to the Super Bowl last year because they didn't have a running game.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened.
Stop the Chiefs with 13 seconds left in the game.
But they have no energy on the defense because they don't have a running game.
Well, all right, I'll give you that.
Come on, man.
I guess we're not getting through anything, but we only got about a minute left. 2 fumbles returned for touchdowns in the Viking games called back. Again, bad calls happen.
Well, what a comeback, though, right? What a comeback for the Ages.
I got screwed out of a touchdown to put my team behind. The game was over if they don't score. I'm telling you that isn't why the Patriots lost. The Patriots lost because Jacoby Myers threw the ball 30 yards backwards to his quarterback who would have been able to do nothing with it. They were stupid. That's why they lost the game. And before that, they could have done a lot of things better till the referee bad call doesn't beat them. I will make the argument.
But okay, at what point did Mac Jones start failing you on that game? At what point? Was it already in the second quarter, or was it already in the second half in the third quarter where they just was giving up? It
was early. The first half, they were horrendous. The offense was horrendous. And as usual, they had trouble putting the ball in the end zone. They did do it once in the red zone this time. But again, they just were not efficient enough. Way too many penalties. Again, they killed them. 3rd and shorts, they get false starts.
Right.
So tired of seeing flags flow and illegal motion, false starts. I've had it. Then again, I love Bill Belichick. This is a mark of a badly coached team. When you get that many penalties, it comes down to coaching. I'm sorry. Or get rid of the guys, which is part of coaching too.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes these guys are just so revved up though that they get caught. They don't get focused. They get the whole focus on some of these players. And I mentioned this on the show with Alan. Is like I feel like we've been stuck with a lot of bad football in the last 2 years. During the season.
You're good. We'll talk about Wake tomorrow too.
But like there's a lot of football that has been lost, and we have to eat it because that's what they're giving us. But if the quality doesn't go up, I mean, what are we going to do?
The quality of play has got to be better. I want to see better play in the playoffs. Even the lower tier of these playoff teams are not playing good football. That's for sure.
No.
So anyway,
like Division III football, son.
We did good. We didn't get to the college basketball, but that's fine. They're going to be going for a long time. We talked about the important stuff, and we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to take your comments and keep coming in with those things that get me ticked off, Alan. I love it. It makes me happy.
Oof. Happy holidays, guys. Merry Christmas.
Way to get my blood going for a Friday. Have a great holiday, guys. Where'd the music go? There we go. Have a great holiday season, guys. We'll see you tomorrow with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness a day early. Don't get confused. Have a good day. See you, Carlos.
Later.
To you as well.